Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mrs. Higgins, would you do a roll call vote?
Yes,
I'm sorry,
Mayor
a roll.
President Percival.
Here.
Vice President Ball.
Here.
Councilman Capabianco.
Here.
Councilman Long.
Here.
Councilman Swigert.
Here.
Councilman Sidlow.
Here.
Councilwoman Guy.
Here.
Chief Murray.
Here.
Mr. Powers.
Here.
Solicitor Wills.
Here.
Engineer Catania.
Here.
And Mr. Bennett. You do have a quorum.
And we have our junior
I'm sorry,
council
and
person.
Sarah's here.
I'm here.
Okay, I got you.
Council has a moment. If you read the minutes of the previous meeting, what is your pleasure, please?
Make a motion to pass next month's minutes.
Second it.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So moved. Mrs. Higgins, do you have any correspondence this
I do.
evening?
Okay, for the month of September, the money brought in through this office from licenses and inspections, $5,207.50. From Nationwide Insurance for refund, $25.20. Fire relief, $10,567.67. Recorder of deeds, $5,654.84. And from the police department for parking tickets, $75. Tax Claim Bureau, $2,469.71, and the Borough Tax Collector, Ed Fisher, $3,829.73, from District Court, $422.93, for a total income that came through this office for September, that does not include the EIT or the LST tax, $28,252.58, and that's all I have.
Any questions for Mrs. Higgins? Moving on to the mayor's report, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, Council. Good evening, citizens. As Council may recall, several months ago, we had an individual disrupt one of our council meetings and had to remove from the chambers by law enforcement. I'd like to read this into the minutes. This is a formality that we need to have in order for individuals to understand moving into the future about what happens if you attempt to disrupt a meeting. The disruption of a public meeting by any person or persons and for any reason will not be tolerated. Any person or persons disrupting a public meeting will be escorted from the council chambers by a law enforcement officer. If the disruptive person or persons assumes an attitude of decorum, that person or persons will be allowed to re-enter the chambers. If that person or persons continue to disrupt the public meeting, they will be charged with a criminal act up to a violation of 18 Pennsylvania Consolidated Statute 55 at 5508, disruption of a public meeting, a misdemeanor of the 3rd degree. If, while being escorted from the council chambers or any time thereafter, that person or person shows any aggressive action toward any law enforcement officer, they will be charged with a criminal act up to a violation of 18 Pennsylvania Consolidated Status 2702 A, B, and C, aggravated assault upon a peace officer, a felony of the 1st degree. Parkside Police Department report, September 1st to September 30th, 2020. There were 7 crimes reported in September. Pardon me. 2 thefts, 1 reception of stolen property, 1 offense against a child, 1 motor vehicle theft, 4 assaults, 106 calls to service. The most prevalent, 10 domestics, 6 medical emergencies, 21 assist other agencies, and 15 public service calls. There were 3 automobile accidents, 7 motor vehicle stops, traffic citations 4, and ordinance violations 2. Madam President, the police department has 2 ordinances that they would like to present to council for council's consideration. Chief Murray, if you'll go over that particular ordinance that you've been researching.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to kind of set the stage for why I'm going to present these to the council to have for their consideration. Delaware County has been working for several months now on an ordinance at the county level to, in essence, decriminalize small amounts of marijuana. Up to a very small amount that you would use personally, and that includes a device that you might use to smoke it or whatever. Marijuana, as everyone knows across the country, the norms are changing, and slowly but surely, state by state, you're seeing things change within individual states. The cost of a prosecution for a small amount of marijuana can be significant. An officer's time, the court's time, clogging up the courts. So what the county is proposing in their ordinance is to take it out of the criminal realm and make it a civil penalty. So there's still a penalty attached, but it's civil in nature. So I met with the district attorney to discuss with him, where he's going with this. This will be the law of the land according to the district attorney's office. So as a police officer on the streets, we will not be able to criminally charge the misdemeanor small amount possession if we were to stop somebody. Now, we don't have that many stops in a year, one or two, sometimes a little bit more, but it's not, it's not a big problem. So they're going to pass this ordinance probably next week or the following week. They've already read it once. Again, it'll be read and passed at the next council meeting. If Parkside Police stop somebody with a small amount of marijuana, we now have to charge them under the county's ordinance, which means when the case is adjudicated, the county gets the proceeds of that fine, right? So what the district attorney suggested was for any community that wants to have their own similar ordinance that the police can use in a civil capacity as opposed to a criminal, that money then comes back to the borough, okay? To me, it was a no-brainer. It just makes good sense that we follow the county's lead and have create an ordinance here in the borough that takes care of the exact same thing. So what I have are two copies, well, one copy each. I have the ordinance that the county is considering, which has been advertised. And I have an ordinance that was passed in Upper Darby back in April. When you read them, they're almost identical. A little bit more verbiage in the Upper Darby one, but they're very, very similar in what they say. The fines are different. Upper Darby, I think, is $75 fine. The county is, I think, a $50 fine. But if I could give them to, you, Madam President, for your consideration, maybe have the solicitor take a look at it. And I think for the borough's consideration, it just makes good sense.
And I will give this to the solicitor to review and to give us a draft for next month.
Okay. If you have any questions, if anybody on council has any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
So what you're proposing is that if someone is stopped for marijuana, that it be charged with a Parkside ordinance as opposed to a county
Correct.
ordinance?
Correct.
So it's just lower down the chain of federalism?
Well, even if it's a county violation, if we didn't do this and basically it's the same thing. It's just the benefit to us of having our own ordinances is we get the proceeds from the fines. It doesn't really matter which ordinance you would charge under. It's still non-criminal. It's a civil. So if you're familiar at all with what we term in our business a non-traffic citation, okay? A traffic citation is not a criminal proceeding. A non-traffic citation is just a way of citing somebody for a non-traffic event other than a motor vehicle violation. And we use them for disorderly conduct, those kinds of statutes. Or, in the case of an ordinance, we would write the ordinance violation in on that non-traffic citation. Still goes to the court, they can have a hearing on it. If they're found guilty, they pay the fine as delineated in the ordinance, you know, whatever the borough's pleasure is. But again, I go back to, again, we're not going to make $1 million on this. There's not a lot of it that happens. But if it does, the money should be coming back here, not going to the county. Okay.
What do they consider a small amount?
It is delineated in
Personal
there,
use.
and I believe 30 grand or less
Okay.
is, and that's right out of the law. I mean, you know. Okay.
Thanks, Chief. Anything else you need to comment on, anything?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. Madam President, I have another ordinance. I know that you are a dog lover.
Yes.
I know that there are several people on council that have dogs. I'm sure there may be some people in the audience tonight that have dogs. I have a dog myself. I have an ordinance to propose. I've been working with an internationally known animal welfare organization. And if the council sees fit to pass this ordinance, this will make Parkside the first municipality in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to outlaw shock collars. And I would like to present this to council. The ordinance was made up in cooperation with this group, and I think it would be it would put Parkside in a very good place as far as animal rights are concerned.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And just one more thing. The fire department was supposed to be here this evening. Chief Sean Swagam was going to give a progress report on the fire company since the loss of that income due to Crozier pulling the contract. Chief, for those of you who don't know it, Chief Swagam here in Parkside is a career firefighter with the Philadelphia Fire Department. And he is attached to a medic unit, which over the last 48 hours, he has worked 24 hours in Philadelphia during the riots. Unfortunately, Chief Swager's medic unit last evening was pelted with bricks, and he himself was hit several times. He is going to, he went off duty at 5 o'clock. He's okay, and he's just going to take some relaxing time at home. But he would like to be put on the agenda for November.
And we wish him well.
Yes, thank you, Madam President, that's all.
Is council all familiar with the use of shock collars on a dog?
We have one. It's awful.
There's two types. One's a shock collar that gives them a direct sting. Other ones can be muted to give them a buzz, which a vibration. The shock collars can actually, I don't know if anybody else is familiar with this, cause physical pain, gastro issues. If they malfunction or you have that collar on too high of a vibration, it can actually cause internal injuries and cause the dog to go into seizures. So I personally am against them. It can cause cardiac arrest. And if council's okay with this, I'd like to also give this to our solicitor to look into and work up as a draft for next month. Unless anybody has any questions on that. At this time, we have call to the citizens on agenda items only. If you'd like to address council on agenda items only. Okay, we'll keep it moving. At this time, I'd like to give my report. I'd like to start off by thanking Councilman Capabianco, who painted the garage doors and spruced them up a little bit for the winter months. Nick does this on his own time, and I truly appreciate it, Nick, and I'm sure so does Ryan. Please check YouTube for our meetings. There's been some discussions. People are still unfamiliar that our meetings on YouTube. You type in Parkside Borough Council, And then there'll be a place there to say all, and you hit on that and it'll list all of our meetings. And for those who are unaware, we do have a food drive that is ongoing. If you need to donate or would like to donate, you can check with council. We can put you in touch with someone, or Ms. Kim Roman's here, and I know she has done that before. Several residents have gotten together, independent of council, and they're doing a pumpkin carving contest event. And the notice was, if you put them outside on October 30th or send a photo to #ParksidePumpkins2020, you can post your photo there. And I believe they're on the 30th, they're going to make their determination as to who wins. So I'd like to thank two of our residents, Beth Hale and Nin Bell, who have put this together. Again, it's not council sponsored, it's an independent group. A quick shout out to the group who did some cleanup on Edgemont Avenue last month. Also, our budget meeting was held, and we will not be able to have the first reading of the budget tonight. We're still waiting for Delaware County to give us an idea on the assessment. As everybody knows, we had 100% assessment. And normally we would know what our millage equates to in dollars and cents. Unfortunately, the county has not determined if they're going to stop the assessment for this year and do it next year, or if they're going to continue with the 100% assessment, and we're waiting for a figure, so our first budget reading will not be until next month. Speaking of next month, council will be early. We're November 18th. We'll be having a CDBG hearing, so because of Thanksgiving, we always move up a meeting a week. And the treasurer has told me that our pension plan now has gone from a level 1 distress from a level 2 based on our evaluations, so that's good news. Anybody who has a street light, please call the office with the location and the pole number. Once again, as the lights go out, we're changing them over to the LEDs. At the March 25th meeting, I specifically mentioned a set protocol that has been on here for decades concerning contacting the professional staff, independent of council. It was also discussed December 7th, January 1st, January 6th, January 22nd, February 26th, March 31st, March 25th, April 17th, and April 20th. Once again, a council member has contacted the professional staff with no copies to anybody else on council, including the president of council or the vice president. The reason we do this is we have a protocol is to save the taxpayers money in case Mrs. Higgins, myself, or Vice President Bull can answer a question. I brought this up to the council member, and when the council member responded to me through an email, I should not need permission to speak to the solicitor. Every penny counts at this point with our economy. I'm bringing this up to council once more, and I'd like to hear all of council's opinion as to the set protocol that's been here for decades, prior to even myself being on council. We do this because to save money. And I'd like council's opinion as to the set protocol and if it should continue.
It should continue.
Thank you. Vice President?
It has worked for decades, and it's not to conceal information. It does work. He's moving in the right direction.
Well, what if you have a question about the behavior of another council member? Or if you, anyone should have access to the borough solicitor at any time if they have a question about the way the government is operating. I mean, if I don't understand why you have to get permission from the council president to speak to the solicitor. I asked a very simple question, and I got a very simple answer, and I don't think it was inappropriate for me to ask that question directly. I did not care to engage you as to knowing that I asked the question, and I don't feel I did anything wrong.
Well, number one, it's disrespectful to the president of council, no matter who that person is, to exclude them from any correspondence, or the vice president. Number two is, everyone here tries to save money, and it's not our money, it's the taxpayers' money. You did not have to,
When you requested this ordinance be created by the solicitor, what process did you go through to get his time?
I commented to all of council with a copy of that ordinance.
After the solicitor had already prepared it. Before the solicitor prepared
Spoke
it.
with him after the budget meeting.
Okay, so you use his time just like everybody else?
Concerning a resolution, not a personnel issue.
Okay, so I had a question about what occurred at the previous meeting. I didn't have a question about a personnel issue.
You had a question concerning Mrs. Guy.
I had a question regarding, I wanted an explanation of what the vote said at the previous meeting, and I asked to see a copy of the document that the solicitor prepared and wrote to the governor. I don't think that was an unreasonable thing to request.
You wrote, and your message was, you weren't sure if it was a motion or a resolution.
Okay,
And you wanted specific documentation from the solicitor.
okay.
If you had contacted myself or the vice president, we could have told you it was a resolution.
Okay, I didn't want...
It was not a resolution, it
I
was a
didn't
motion.
care to have the opinion from you. I cared to have the opinion from the solicitor. Absolutely not. I wanted the advice of the attorney of the borough to advise me on something that occurred at the previous meeting. That is not an
If you
unreasonable
had
thing to
been
do.
paying attention at the previous meeting, and I have said this before at other meetings, you would have known because you voted on a motion, not a resolution.
I also...
Your lack of respect, and if and when you ever sit in this chair, I hope another member doesn't show you the lack of respect you show me.
I have got to disagree with you. Okay.
Okay.
I do not
Well,
show you. I do not show you disrespect. Okay. I do not show you disrespect at all. Okay.
Mr.
And-
Sidlow, the question is, should we allow any member of council to contact the professional staff and therefore spend the taxpayers' dollars when someone else can answer that question? You're saying we should allow that. May I move on to Mr. Schwager?
I'm saying everyone has equal access to the borough solicitor, that we all have equal access to the borough solicitor, and that we should not have a gatekeeper between advice and the solicitor. and the council
I
member.
understand your point. However, we try to keep the budget down, and one of the expenses for our professional staff is if everyone contacts them with questions, when someone else other than the professional staff can answer them, then we save the taxpayers' money.
Okay, but I wanted an answer not from the borough president, I wanted it from the borough solicitor. I don't know why that's unreasonable.
Mr. Schwager, do you have an opinion on this? Because I'm going to entertain a motion in a second.
No opinion at this time.
Thank you. Councilman Long?
Before I answer, how much money have we, or they have cost the taxpayers for this year so far?
Two council members contacting the solicitors cost approximately $1,000 so far.
I find that hard to believe. I would like to see those bills.
$1,000 that we could have used to
Let's let Ms. Councilman Long speak, please.
That's $1,000 we could have used for something else more important. When you had the answer, Vice President's full.
And
Mr.
Mrs. Higgins
had-
would have known that.
There's
Well, I
no,
would say we keep with what we've had for past decades.
Okay. Mrs. Guy?
Well, I feel that there are some cases where a gatekeeper is going to prevent the question from being answered, so I feel like it's been used in a adversarial way.
At this point, I'll entertain a motion
hang on. There's
to
no- there's-
continue with the
There's no way, there's
protocol.
no way $1,000 has been spent on
The
two,
first time,
on several
Mrs.
small
Guy,
questions.
if you want me to get specific, the first time Mrs. Guy continually contacted about Mr. Wills looking up court cases, it was $300.
Okay, that's $300.
First time.
Where's the $1,000?
The second time, we went into $600. I don't have the current cost of your question to the solicitor. I'm going to guess we're approaching $1,000 this year.
Okay, I would like to see those bills and proof of that. There's no way there's $1,000 in bills to questioning the solicitor. No way.
Mr. Sidlow? He's right there. Mr. Sidlow? At this point, council, I'm going to entertain a motion that we continue with the protocol of council going through either a president, vice president, or the secretary first to save taxpayers' money.
I'll make that motion.
I second it.
Mrs. Higgins, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Mr. Bull?
Aye.
Because that was a yes, okay. Mr. Sidlow?
No.
Mr. Schweiger?
Thank you for your, never mind.
Mr. Schweitzer?
Yes.
Pardon me, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Shirley?
Yes.
And Mr. Long?
Yes.
And Ms. Scott?
No?
Thank you, council. We'll move on.
Motion carried.